2, 1, you're live.
What is going on, everybody? It is Monday, 11 a.m. Central Time. It is a beautiful day here in the Chicagoland area in the United States, in this solar system, in this galaxy, in this universe. Welcome, guys, to the weekly real estate investing live stream Q&A session where you guys, as our viewers, the Kwak Brothers subscribers, are able to ask any real estate investing question that your heart desires. So feel free to go ahead and start punching in those real estate investing questions in the chat box right now. I understand it's 10:55, it's a little early, but I saw that we have a good amount of people watching right now. Just so so I thought, the studio's ready, the guys are ready, I'm ready. Let's go ahead and get this thing started a little earlier, so it gives the people the opportunity to ask the questions 5 minutes earlier than they would have had otherwise in another parallel universe, perhaps. So again, guys, good morning. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Go ahead and feel free to type in your questions in the chat box right now. But typically, when there's not a whole lot of questions, I don't see any questions yet. But typically, when it's like this, when I don't see any questions, I'll typically go ahead and address some general, frequently asked questions about real estate. These are questions that a lot of people ask me a lot of times. And as you guys go ahead and type in your questions, and again, guys, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell. And we also recently released, as of last Friday, 12 a.m. in the morning, so Thursday at midnight, we released a free owner financing course, absolutely free. It's about an hour and a half, and we literally get into the content of what is owner financing, how do you network with owner financing sellers, what are the pros and cons of individuals who could use seller financing, and I actually have a section in there where I talk with Steve Hamilton, my CPA, about the tax implications of seller financing and how to negotiate seller financing as well. So Renee Enriquez asked, what is the purpose of this video? So hey, welcome Renee, welcome to the Kwak Brothers channel. The purpose of this video and this live stream is, honestly, it's just a live Q&A session. So the topic is real estate investing, and you're free to ask any question you want on real estate investing. And I'm here for the next hour to basically answer any question that you have in regards to the subject around real estate investing. So typically when people don't ask a whole lot of questions, like right now, and it may be because it's still before 11 a.m. And I know it takes a good while for us to develop kind of a crowd, but typically until then, until somebody asks a real estate investing question, I'll typically throw out some frequently asked questions that people ask me all the time, that I feel like the information's always changing. But before, I was actually referring to a free owner financing class we just released. So feel free to go ahead and check that out, guys. The link a lot of times is in the description. So feel free to check that out. It's completely free. All you gotta do is just put in your name and your email address and you'll get access to it. So enjoy. We really did put a lot of work into this one. So feel free to go ahead and enjoy it, use it, apply it. All right, so frequently asked questions. Let's go ahead and talk about frequently asked questions. So, oh, there we go. Okay, so we actually have a question right now. So Grace, BTU Bonilla, yep. Did you start with your own funds? If not, how did you raise the funds? So to answer the first part of that question, I actually did not have my own funds. Matter of fact, when I got started, I had negative $187 in my bank account. So basically what I started contemplating on is, I knew I wanted to invest in real estate, but at the same time, everybody was telling me that you needed to have money. And for me, in my mind, I was like, well, investing, I need money to invest. I don't have that. So in life, I realized that there are 4 currencies. I realized there was time. I realized there was money. I realized that there was knowledge. And I knew there were people, right? So networking, relationships, that in itself is a currency. So I started out with negative $187.65 in my bank account. It wasn't that long ago. I think it was around 6 years ago that I stared at this number down to my smartphone, and I actually remember this one time. So I was in college at the time, and I was like a sophomore, I think, and I used to go home every weekend to see my parents, because my parents are pastors, and I would help out at our home church. And I would drive back, and it was about an hour and a half drive. And I remember this one particular Friday, I had that, that was the same Friday I looked down at this number, saw that in my bank account, and I saw also a couple maxed out credit cards. And on the drive back, I kid you not, for an hour and a half straight, I was driving my mom's old 1999 Toyota Corolla that my brother and I were sharing at the time, and despite both of us being in college. And I remember driving that car that just made a lot of noise, wasn't the best car, and the whole time, the whole 90 minutes of that trip, I was just weeping. I was just crying. I was losing it, because I thought I was a failure in life, and I was like, man, like, how could I get to this point? And I was just really upset. I was just really disappointed in myself. So I had no money to invest, right? So no money, right? But I quickly realized that out of the four currencies, money is actually the weakest. It's the weakest currency. It's the weakest currency. It's actually fourth. Now, the most scarce is time, because we can always get more money. They're always printing more. There's always more knowledge, right? We can always learn more, and there's always going to be more people. I always joke around and say, as long as the great work of Marvin Gaye is still around, there will always be more people, right? But time is the thing that we have the most scarce of. We cannot produce more time, right? So I always tell people, it's like, listen, what you do with your time is rather important, right? So in my opinion, right, if I'm utilizing this currency, I have to use this currency to either gain more knowledge or more people. In my mind, the money is going to come as a byproduct, right? The money is going to come as a byproduct of me having the knowledge and the people. So I realized that I needed to use these two currencies. I needed to be an expert at this currency and at that currency. And I knew, right, just because this currency was down, right, negative $187.65, I knew that I could use this currency called time, right? So I was a kid, right, absolutely, right? I was a kid, 19 years old, 19, 20 years old. And, granted, I was very busy, right? I was in full-time school. I was doing 3 different groups in my colleges. My weekends were gone because I was actually traveling as a professional musician. And I didn't have a whole lot of time, but I knew that I had to make this more available, because I knew I could transvert and convert this currency into these 2 other currencies. I knew I could do that. So I started sacrificing a lot on my plate, and granted, there's some things that were a little bit irresponsible, like skipping class and, but I knew that if I could obtain these 2 currencies, I could obtain the money aspect. So what did I do? I started learning a lot about real estate. And for the first 2 years of my career, honestly, like, I was just a madman. I would stay up till 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 or 5 in the morning, reading about real estate investing. I bought every single educational course you could possibly think of. And which, again, is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about having my own real estate education program, because we actually sell our real estate education program for only $500, and we offer stuff that you would learn in any other program. And I spent almost $100,000 buying different real estate investing packages. Like, I bought one for 20 grand, I bought one for 2,000, I bought one for, there was a lot of different real estate investing programs that my brother Sam and I spent money on. So, I wanted to put something out there that's a lot cheaper and it provides better value than what I see out there. So that's my reason for doing that. But, I spent every waking hour learning about real estate investing. And I also spent every waking hour networking with people. So I would go to meetups and I would go to these different things. And honestly, what got me started in raising capital, because this actually wasn't the incentive for me to raise capital. I knew there were ways to buy money, no money down, and I knew there were ways to buy properties without using any money or any credit, and I was learning about it, and that was my plan. Well, it just so happened that, every week I would network with a bunch of real estate investing communities, right? I would network with this many people. In total, there was about 700 people a week that I would network with, right? That I would meet with on a weekly basis. And one of the things that I started noticing is that everybody had the deals, but nobody had the money, right? So all 700 people that I was meeting with, every single week, whether it was a Thursday night, a Tuesday night, a Wednesday morning, a Saturday afternoon, and I was just going to these places just left and right. And when I found good ones, I would stay. I would choose to make it a weekly thing. And granted, there were some meetups where I went to, and like there was a guy who had a duplex, and he made it seem like he was like the world's greatest investor. And I'm like, bro, you got 2 units. You're not the greatest investor in the world. Like I only have like 80 something, and I don't think I'm the best investor in the world. So I went to a lot of these different meetups, and I noticed a common problem. Everybody had deals. No one had money. No one had capital. So for me, I started asking myself, how can I provide value to the marketplaces that I'm at? How can I provide that value? How could I be of the greatest use? How could I make myself a commodity, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about supply and demand. There was a demand, there was a supply of deals, right? So if we're talking about the supply and demand model, which, by the way, if you're in real estate investing, the supply and demand model is something that you should always focus on. So there was a mass supply of deals. Oh, I'm sorry, there was a mass demand for capital because there were so many deals, but the supply was weak, right? There was no capital, right? There was none of it. So I started getting good at raising money. So I would go around and, I made a criteria on who I wanted to raise money from, and I asked myself the question of, well, when it comes to real estate investing, and we're talking about people that make a lot of money, that have a lot, which problems, right? Which problems, if we're talking real estate investing as a solution, what problems does it best serve? And I absolutely knew that one of the biggest benefits of real estate investing was taxes. So I simply just reverse engineered. I reverse engineered what I knew to be true, and I used that information to see what problems I could add solutions to, or I could add value to, because I always knew value followed money. Money followed value, right? Just like Apple, right? You're probably watching this live stream on an Apple product, on an iPhone, or maybe it's a laptop, or it's a MacBook, right? But Steve Jobs, Apple is such a big company because they provide value to a lot of people, right? So I knew, basically I reverse engineered. So I asked myself, what are the biggest advantages of real estate investing? And I knew one of the biggest advantages was tax benefits. So I started then asking myself, okay, who are the people that could use tax benefits the most? And I came out with doctors. So individuals like anesthesiologists, orthopedic surgeons, and I actually targeted doctors in the California area because I knew those are the ones that made a lot of money. So doctors, business owners could use some tax advantages. Commission-based jobs. So one of my primary investors, especially around this time and recently, is a guy who actually sells medical technology, and he gets a very hefty commission, and he makes a lot of money, 7 figures, so to speak. So commission-based job, business owners, and doctors. For me, that was just kind of the start. So I started networking specifically with these people, and I started building a network and a sustainable network. And by the time I was actually 21 years old, I actually had verbal commitment. So these are investors who say they were going to invest, and they were willing to sign paperwork, and they were wanting to wire their money in. So by the time I was 21, I had $2 million in verbally committed capital. And so instantly, amongst my network of 700 people I was meeting with on a weekly basis, I became almost like a mini celebrity. Like I started telling people, yeah, I raised $2 million in capital, $2 million capital, $2 million capital, $2 million capital, $2 million capital. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Daniel. I just raised $2 million in capital. So the word started getting around, and one of the primary networking events that I did attend, they would announce the wins, right? So they would say, oh, like who's got wins, or like, hey, this kid's got wins, whatever. And because I was only 21 years old, I became very attractive, in terms of other investors being intrigued, right? Like I caught a lot of attention, like a lot of eyes were on me because I was just a 21-year-old kid and I was raising this type of money. So by the way, guys, if you want a good resource or a good book to raise capital, obviously my program, right, my Real Estate Accelerator program that Sam and I put together, you know, I have a class in there. It's 3 hours long. It's probably the best class that I've ever put together on raising capital. And basically what I did is I took the course that I've gotten from, you know, I bought from different places, right? So different real estate education courses, and I took the good parts of every single one of those courses, and I also added in my experience as well and created that class. So if you want a resource, go check that out. But another really good book is a book called Pitch Anything by a guy named Oren Klaff. So really good book. I probably read that book at least minimum of 10 times, just because I really think it's like the Bible of, you know, raising capital. So I raised capital, and before I knew it, I started having like 15 to 20 emails a week from literally people just sending me deals, and they're just like, hey Daniel, I'll give you 30% equity share in this deal if you connect me with these, you know, with these investors. And so I started partnering with a bunch of these guys, and well, because I was such a commodity, because I had a solution to what 700 people had a problem with, I was able to pick and choose who I wanted to work with. So I literally just picked the 2 or 3 best people out of those 700, and before I knew it, partnering with them, I was able to learn so much more than these classes were ever teaching me. And so I started getting real life experience, and before I knew it, by the time I was 23 years old, I was off on my own, doing my own deals. Off on my own at 23, doing my deals, which that year I went from 0 to 75 units very quickly, which that's what this book, right? So this book right here that you guys are seeing, which by the way, if you guys want a free copy of this book, this actually details my very first step in the world of real estate investing. I'm actually giving it out for free. So we got a free owner financing class and also a free book. All you gotta do is just pay for shipping, right? So you guys are getting a bunch of free stuff right now. Feel free to go to 0to75units.com. Check that book out. It's completely free, detailing my very, very first step in the world of real estate investing. So I started getting 15, 20 emails, started doing deals on a weekly basis, and then basically started going off on my own, right? So yes, to answer your question, I didn't start with my own funds, and I did raise the capital because I needed to, right? It solved the problem. All right, Rob asks, when buying a fourplex, do you base your asking price off a commercial financing metric or comps when negotiating the seller? So I do it 3 different ways. So the 3 different ways I do it is, fourplex is technically, it is residential. So your broker, it should be a residential broker, and your broker is going to send you what's called a CMA, which basically is a detailed report on a bunch of comps. So I do it based on comps of the whole building itself. Right, so that's the whole building. And I also do price per unit. Because this gives me comps, but also from a rental perspective. So I want to know, based on the classification and how much income it brings, what are investors paying per unit? Because at the end of the day, whether it's a 4 unit or whether it's a 12 unit, it's the same thing when it comes to rental. If it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you're most likely as a tenant gonna pay the same thing, whether it's a 4 unit or whether it's a 12 unit, 15 unit, whatever it is. That's just the way it works. Now, if you take into consideration comps, right, that statement, that metric would not apply, right? Because when you have comps, when you're pulling comps on the whole building, you have to get something similar, right? Like kind. And also location, right? Depending on the area, it can't be within a mile radius, et cetera, et cetera. But the price per unit also brings in the rental aspect as well. And I also do cap rate. Because even though it's not a commercial, I still want to verify and validate the price based on the income. Because at the end of the day, guys, with real estate, you're not buying a building, right? Like, yes, you are buying a property, you're buying land, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to real estate investing, you are buying an income stream, right? So everyone watching at home, repeat after me. I am buying an income stream. One more time. I am buying an income stream, right? So with real estate investing, you're not buying a property, you're not buying a house, you're buying an income stream. And you need to treat it like so, right? Like there's maintenance that needs to be done to your income stream. That's how you have to think of it at the end of the day. Like I'm very surprised, right? Like when I, and I get a lot of nightmare stories. Like I get a lot of people who come to me and, they're like, well, this broker told me that this is a good deal and I got into it and now I'm in trouble, right? And first off, I'm like, what do you expect from a broker? First off, I don't mean to offend any brokers or realtors, right? I know the number of people watching right now may plummet significantly, but hey, I call a spade a spade. I tell it like it is. You will never see me stand in this chair in front of this camera and lie to you, right? When I have an opinion, I will tell you my opinion. You guys are on here to listen to my opinion. And my opinion is that 95% of brokers have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to the investing world. They will tell you what you want to hear to get that price up as high as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's not a lie, or I'm not lying, right? It's actual fact that their pay, right? Their payment, right? What they receive, to put food on the table, it's incentivized by how much you pay for the property. They are financially incentivized to have you pay a higher price than a lower price, right? I have yet to see a broker or a realtor who genuinely, I've met a lot of brokers who have this mindset. They just happen to be a very small percentage, right? Who they will not say stuff like vacancy rates and statistics, right? Who will change a little bit of that to incentivize their buyers to pay a higher price, right? So of course a broker is not gonna care whether they get you in a good deal or not, right? And they'll make up whatever they want to basically say it's a good deal. They'll be like, well, like McDonald's just put in another location 15 miles away. It's gonna appreciate right? No, I don't wanna hear that, right? At the end of the day, you're buying an income stream. Run the numbers for yourself. And I meet a lot of people who get put in this bad situation, and at the end of the day, it's because they didn't know how to run the numbers correctly. So yeah, at the end of the day, I use 3. But then again, like I don't really buy fourplex. Like the last time I bought a fourplex was like 3 years ago. But yeah, if I were to buy a fourplex today, I would do the price per unit comps, and I would also figure out the cap rate. I want to see if I'm able to get a good return. Top Secret Bear asks, I'm investing in a smaller major city in Tennessee. Okay, not many fourplexes around. Some people are even investing in new construction multifamily. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Tennessee has a lot of new construction. I would agree to that. I would definitely agree to that. I'm gonna change the settings on here. But yeah, thank you for that. But okay, so what Top Secret Bear actually is pertaining to is rather important. So you guys would not believe the amount of large real estate funds that I currently meet with. So I meet with a lot of different real estate funds, guys who have 20, 30, 40 million dollars, because I'm in the process of doing that right now. But after seeing what I saw, it kind of turned me off to it for about a good 6 months. And basically what I'm seeing right now is that a lot of people have too much capital. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that a lot of real estate funds that are the movers and shakers of certain markets, they've raised so much capital that they're in positions where they need to dump it. Like they need to dump, like 10, 20, 30 million dollars within 90 days. Otherwise, they're gonna lose that capital. So what I'm observing is that a lot of these individuals, they're in a position where you have to put that capital out. And well, what happens? What happens when you're in a situation where you have to release that capital? Otherwise, you're gonna lose it. Well, people start overpaying for buildings because it's not just one fund. It's a lot of these different funds that are going after these 100+ unit buildings, and they're inflating these prices. So yeah, absolutely, I would totally agree with Top Secret Bear that in states like Tennessee, where it's in a very attractive rental market, a rental state, that a lot of it is going on. You know, a lot of it's going on to the point where people are overpaying for buildings left and right. And I'm really interested, guys, I'm really interested to see the repercussions of that. Let's see, just one plugged in, turn on back. Sorry guys, I'm changing because it keeps going off on me. So let's see. All right, guys, yeah, keep them coming. Keep the real estate investing questions coming. I'm just adjusting, yeah, the settings on this. But yeah, keep it coming, guys. Yeah, I want to see. Everyone is telling investors to get out and hold liquid funds in case of recession. Yeah, that's true. Berkshire Hathaway has their highest liquidity bank ever of all time, actually. But at the same time, you can't ignore the fact that there's a lot of foreign money coming in that's buying up a lot of real estate. And again, a lot of these funds, you know, are allocating so much capital right now. They're in positions where they have to use the capital within a short span of time, because investors at the end of the day, you know, they're not going to raise capital to a fund and just have them hold it for 2-3 years. A lot of investors still, they want their money at work, especially because, you know, the economy is great right now, market's doing good, the Dow is hitting record numbers. They want to see their capital at work. They don't want to simply sit in the sidelines. They want to see it at work. But at the same time, everyone is telling investors to get out whole liquid funds in case of a recession, but of course not everyone's doing it. Keep it coming, guys. Let's keep the real estate investing questions going. Maybe we should do like a halftime show. We're at like the halfway point right now. We should do a halftime show where I get to go to a taco restaurant and eat tacos in front of you and make you all hungry. Okay, so Christopher Dorsano asked, what are your thoughts on a REIT? So for those of you guys that don't know what a REIT is an acronym that stands for Real Estate Investing Trust. So if you're an investor and you're a passive investor, it's a very much of a passive way to get a return. But for me, like if I had $500,000, I would not invest in a REIT, just because, you know, like you're really kind of just another number, you know. You're kind of one of many when it comes to a REIT, and I know there's still a lot of fees that a lot of these big investment trusts and funds allocate, like acquisition fees and management fees. And you know, you're kind of, it's very much of like the hedge fund version of real estate investing. So you might get an 8-9% return, but I would highly recommend getting connected with a local expert that can give you, you know, 50% of the deal, or they can give you 12%, 16% return. And plus it's more personable. And you know, I always tell investors all the time, you know, like when you're getting in real estate and you found an individual that is an expert, that knows what they're doing, and most importantly, they have integrity, you know, position yourself to be an equity investor, position yourself to be a partner, because not only are you able to take advantage of the tax benefits, you know, and but you're also able to build wealth through building equity, paying down the principal. Now, the objection to that is that, well, you know, somebody might say, the devil's advocate might say, well, if things go, you know, bad, you know, there's a lot of negative things that happen, you're tied as well. You know, you're not getting your return. Well, yeah, that's true, but guess what? If you're an investor, chances are you have a rather high income. You're either a doctor, or you're a business owner, or you just have a lot of money sitting around. And well, it's not the worst thing to take the losses on your tax return. Because if things do go bad in a real estate deal, guess what? You could write off those losses against your income. And you having the equity allows you to do that. It allows you to put it on your 8825, your K1, and your 1040. It absolutely allows you to write off those losses. So if you're not getting your return in the form of cash, guess what? You're getting in the form of tax benefits, of tax savings. So no matter what, you're winning something. To whereas a REIT, if a large market downturn happens, you're at a loss because you're really a debt investor, not an equity investor. Yeah, keep it coming, guys. Keep those real estate investing questions coming. I can do, it's like the Captain America quote, you know, like I can do this all day, that type of thing. And I don't know why give me a second, guys. I don't know why the screen for me is not popping up. See, you know what? That's fine. I'll just put the chat up. I'll just full screen this baby. You still think a rate cut is coming at the end of July, or do you think it's going to be another rate? I think they're going to cut it. I really do think they're going to cut it. And I don't think they're going to cut it at the rate that they raised it. So they raised it 250 basis points. So they raised it a quarter of a point, basically like twice, 2 or 3 times every year since December of 2015. That was the first time they raised it from zero. I think they're going to cut it. I think they're going to cut it not only by 0.25%, I think they're going to cut it half a point. That's what I think. And that scares me. That really, really scares me, because if we're in a position where the Fed and the central banking system is wanting to put cash back into the economy, and considering that we did for the last 4 years have been cutting rates, and before that we had, you know, an 8-year span of the lowest rates in the history of the country, and we're also, as of March 2019, in the longest bull run that this economy has ever seen. I don't know. And by the way, guys, what I mean by the longest bull run, so bull run basically means good market, right? It means you're optimistic. Bear, bad, you know what I mean? So the way I remember it is, you know, back in the 90s, the Chicago Bulls were really good. And then back in the 90s, the Chicago Bears were really bad, right? So I'm a Chicago native. I love Chicago sports. Die-hard Bulls fan, right? So if no one asks a question, I'll tell my story on why I want to own the Chicago Bulls. But bullish basically means good, bearish, pessimism, bullish, optimism. So, you know, I think when you combine the fact that, you know, we're in the longest bullish run that this economy has ever seen, and at the same time, you look at the 10-year treasuries and how they're responding, and the spread on the rates that they're issued compared to where they're at now. I don't know, man. I'm very, like, I'm scratching my head / very cautious at what's going on with the market, considering that they're going to cut rates. I think they're going to cut rates in July by 0.5. That tells me they really want to pump cash back into the economy. And that actually scares me in terms of what's going to happen, because I see a lot of bubbles going on, a lot of bubbles. There's a credit bubble with lines of credit, commercial lines of credit. There's overinflation with commercial real estate that I think is extremely interesting. And considering that they started pushing CDOs again in spring of this year, JP Morgan started pushing CDOs again. I think that is very interesting, extremely interesting. And I would agree with you. This bull has a lot of energy, man. I would completely agree with you that it's just really interesting. A lot of things are up in the air. An unknown anonymous. What a conundrum. What a redundancy. Warrenville is a far cry from the city. You're absolutely right. So if you actually Googled how far Warrenville is far from Chicago, it's about a 30-40 minute drive, depending on the traffic. You know, you just take Route 290 to the city, and before you know it, you're taking pictures at the Bean. Okay, so let me tell you guys my story. The story of why I want to own the Chicago Bulls. So, as many of you know, I am my brother and I, Sammy, we are immigrants to this country. And when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I was living in South Korea, because that's the country we immigrated from, the great country of South Korea. I loved the sport of basketball. I had an older cousin who played in his high school team. We would always go watch him play. And me being 5 years old, I still remember watching my older cousin play basketball. And, you know, I had the little mini hoops at home, and I watched the Korean Basketball League, thinking that these guys were like the best players in the world. And I remember when my parents told me that we were going to move to America, and I remember one of the things that I was really sad by Excuse me, guys. One of the things that I was really sad by, I need coffee. One of the things I was really sad by was I didn't think that there was gonna be more basketball. So I was really bummed out. I was like, man, like I'm not gonna see my friends anymore. Like this sucks. Like, and no more basketball. So during that 14-hour flight from Korea to the United States, I was just bummed out. I was like, like no basketball. Oh, like this is gonna suck. Like I gotta make new friends. Like what is going on? And I remember getting off the plane, and the earliest memory I have, right, the earliest memory I have of being in O'Hare Airport in Chicago, Illinois, was getting out of that gate. And I don't know if you guys remember, I don't know what the age demographic of the people watching this are, but back in the 90s in O'Hare Airport, they used to have these box TVs that they would hang in the corner of the walls. And I remember getting off that plane, and the first thing that I saw, my earliest memory in O'Hare Airport, was this guy wearing number 23 in a Chicago Bulls jersey. And he had the ball against the basket, and he did this fadeaway jumper, and I was like, wow, I've never seen a basketball player, especially a Korean basketball player, you know, jumping that high. And I was like, wow, his skin is different than mine, you know, like his skin's black, and my skin is not that. And I remember seeing, obviously, Michael Jordan. And ever since then, you know, I was a diehard Bulls fan. I just love the Bulls. So one day my goal is to be the owner of the Chicago Bulls. So kind of be like what Mark Cuban is for the Mavericks, but for the Chicago Bulls. So, yeah. I may need a new primary residence soon. Was thinking about house hacking at fourplex. So let me address that. Unknown Anonymous guy, how could you not know that basketball is huge in Chicago? So I know who you are, Unknown Anonymous, just by the fact that you call me guy. I already know. But at the same time, I was 5 years old. You know, like I knew nothing about this new country. You know, kind of like how if you were to like go to Lithuania, like you probably wouldn't be able to tell me what the main sport in Lithuania is. You know, so it was like that. You know, I was 5 years old. I was a kid. I had no idea. I didn't even know that America existed. I know a lot of Americans think that they're the center of attention, like they're the center of the universe, that everything revolves around, you know, the United States of America. But yeah, I had no idea what America even was when I was 5 years old and I was living in South Korea. Top secret bear, I may need a new primary. I was thinking about house hacking a fourplex. I am not a big fan of house hacking. Well, house hacking in a sense of you living in one of the units and renting out the other three. I love the idea. I love it. I absolutely love it. Especially if you're in your 20s. I think if you're in your 20s, you shouldn't be renting. You should look to buy a triplex or a 4-unit, live in one, and then rent out the other. I'm not a big fan of the BRRRR strategy. The BRRRR strategy is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I am not a big fan of that strategy. I think it only works 2 or 3 years out of a 10-year market cycle, but other than that, you really can't justify stripping the equity and moving on to the next one, especially when you're in a market where values may tank and the bearish market will wear you down. I've just met, and this is, for me, this is an opinion, right? Me saying the BRRRR strategy is the bad strategy is not opinion. It's actually a matter of fact, because in my travel, so I traveled at one point for 2 years straight. I traveled to 3 or 4 different cities every single week. I was on 5 or 6 different flights. And every single one of those cities, guys, hear me out. Every single one of these cities, I would have at least one individual who would come up to me and say, wow, Daniel, the fact that you're doing this at your age is amazing. Back in 2007, 2008, I used to have 10, 15, 20, 30 houses. And then I would ask, well, what happened? What'd you do? What, you know, it's like, well, you know, like the market tanked and, you know, like the banks called my note due, and it happened to everyone. And it's just so weird, like when people say it happened to everyone, they justify their own failure by saying it happened to everyone. Like, for me, like I would always respond, be like, well, did you are you changing anything different? Is it perhaps the fact? Let's stop for a second. Have you ever thought for a second maybe it's your fault that you bought those and stripped all the equity out and then you blamed it on the banks? Maybe it's your fault that you neglected to educate yourself on what the market does, which apparently everybody who uses the BRRRR strategy don't do. They don't educate themselves on, you know, chronological market cycles, right? Chronological macroeconomics, right? It's a thing, absolutely. So, like for me, it's just like, don't get me wrong, I think it's a good strategy. I'm not bashing the strategy whatsoever. I think it is a great strategy, especially for individuals that don't have a whole lot of capital and they don't have a whole lot of resources, and they're really looking to scale. I think it's a good strategy. But at the same time, I think it's a good strategy if you're doing it like really 2 to 4 years out of a 10-year market cycle. Yeah, like you really need to have 4 or 5 years ahead of you that is a bullish market. Like you need to have a 4 or 5 years ahead of you in a bullish market for you to make it really work for yourself. Another question is, what area of Chicago area you like for 2 to 4 flats? I know South Shore is taking off. Chicago is horrible for landlords. Thanks. Yeah, it really is. Chicago is awful for landlords. If you're getting a 2 to 4 unit building, I would recommend staying out of Chicago, because Chicago has astronomical taxes and you're taxed on a residential basis. So I would stay out of Chicago if you're looking to enjoy this thing called money. Stay out of Chicago. What I would recommend, however, if you want to get a 2 to 4 flat, especially a 4 unit building, and you want to invest in the Chicagoland area, go to places like Markham. Markham is phenomenal for 4 flats right now. It's a great rental market. A lot of Hispanics are moving to Markham, which, by the way, in my opinion, for C-class buildings, which I have had my experience in C-class buildings. I think I'm moving away from C-class. I've owned a lot of C-class apartments before, and in my experience, Hispanics make the best tenants. Like, they pay their rent on time. They don't give you any problems. You know, they may do a party here and there, but you know, like typically they don't bother anyone, and they'll ask people if they want to join in on the party, right? So Hispanics, in my opinion, have been the best tenants. So you know, Markham, there's a lot of Hispanics wanting to move to that area. So I would recommend Markham. Another place, a great place, I would recommend Villa Park. Addison, Illinois is a great rental market, because a lot of Hispanics and Indians live there. And they pay rent. You know, they don't dodge rent. They pay rent on the first every time. I've never had a problem with Hispanic tenants. Addison, Villa Park, Aurora is decent depending on where you're at. You know, Woodridge is a good place as well. Let me think about Lockport, really good place as well too. People pay rent over there. So really anywhere kind of along that Interstate 57. From Downers Grove all the way down to about Joliet, it's a great rental market. And even places like Manteno, Illinois, and you're kind of getting more south. You know, Manteno, I think, is a great place to invest as well. Peatone, I would kind of stay away from, right? It's a lot strange. All right, Top Secret Bear asks, yeah, I want to use that residential financing, but not a lot of fourplexes around. May end up having them. Cool. Can you guys do something about like the air? I'm like dying here. Yeah, it's like I'm just dying here. I feel like I'm being microwaved right now. I'm gonna go through this bottle like crazy. All right, guys, but keep it coming. I'm still going strong, right? I may be lightheaded. I may pass out. You know, in like 15 minutes, I may have to stretch. Ugh. But keep it coming, guys. This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? We still got a good 15 minutes. I got 15 minutes left in me. Keep these real estate investing questions coming. If not, I'll just address a frequently asked question. Apparently, I still haven't immigrated yet. My language speaking skills are still amongst the Koreans. Okay, so let me address the frequently asked questions if there's no questions whatsoever. Let me think of a good one. What is a question? Oh, okay. So here's a question that I get a lot. I get a lot of questions revolving around real estate investing syndications. And for those of you guys that don't know what a real estate investing syndication is, it's basically what you call a 506. So by code, it is a 506B or a 506C. And what it basically is that it's allowing the smaller investors to pool astronomical monies together. So I get a lot of good friends that are good real estate syndicators, like Joe Fairless, right? So by the way, if you guys want information, great information on apartment complex syndications, go reach out to Joe Fairless, right? He's got a great YouTube channel, and I think he's almost at 3,000 subscribers, so go help him out. But basically what it is, it's pooling a bunch of money together to go after large deals. So like the 100, 200, 300 unit buildings, it's pooling a lot of money together to go after those. Syndications, I don't recommend a whole lot of people doing, because that's major league. You're really playing with the big boys. My advice on that would be, do a lot of research on the SEC when it comes to raising money legally and doing it the right way. I think that's something that a lot of people forget. So appreciate you actually addressing the actual demographics of this area. So many people talk in codes and avoid actually saying who lives there in these areas. Yeah, absolutely. I keep it real. Keep it coming, guys. We still got a good 10, 15 minutes of real estate investing questions. I'm here. If you don't have any questions, I'll go ahead and say some announcements, exciting things that we got coming out, and I'll go ahead and close this out. How do I reach out to you directly? Yeah, feel free to email me at info@thekwakbrothers.com and just put in the subject line Daniel. So here, I'll write it down for you guys. Info at Okay. Are you going for gold right now or going for deals? I go for deals. So here's my thing. So was I telling people to buy gold 18 months ago? Yes. As far as 18 months ago, I was telling people to buy gold. Why? Because number one, I knew that the US dollar right now is the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. But at the same time, I know we're also headed for a period where inflation is going to happen, right? We're just gonna have to kick the can down the road. And I know whenever there's scenarios where we have to print a lot of money, especially right now where you see 10-year treasuries, and we got, I think the last time I checked, the debt was at 21 trillion, and we've got a lot of overinflation with real estate. Even at that, I know that gold is going to be a very high value, high ticket price. So right now, ever since I told people 18 months ago to buy gold, it actually went up like closer to 40%, right? But at the same time, my investment philosophy that I stick to strictly is that I don't invest in things that I do not control. At the end of the day, I cannot control the price of gold. Can I control a real estate deal? I absolutely can. So right now I'm not buying gold. So I am doing deals. So Rob, you can reach out to me at info@thekwakbrothers with subject line Daniel. Do you dabble in Hammond, East Chicago, Northwest Indiana at all, Indianapolis? So I currently do deals in Indiana, but I do them in I do them in northern Indiana. So at least good drive. I don't do deals in Hammond, East Chicago, Northwest Indiana. I think I kind of wanted to play it out and see how those markets react, because I know a lot of investors are going after Gary. And I know there's a lot of like opportunity zones, tax benefits, municipal opportunities for places like Gary, but I want to see how things play out. I really do. All right, guys, so if there's not any questions, I'll go ahead and close this out. So a couple announcements that we got coming. Oh wait, we got a question. I'm looking to buy my first rental property. I live in Southern California. I'm considering purchasing out of state due to the housing prices here versus other state. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Go out of state. Absolutely go out of state. So Brandon, if you're not a student with us already, if you're a student and if you're a client of mine, feel free to reach out to me at info@thekwakbrothers.com, and I'd be more than happy to help you with that. If you're not a student, however, I would highly recommend being a student, because we do offer a ton of value. Speaking of which, some announcements, guys. So we just released a free owner financing class, so feel free to check that out. And also get your free copy of the book, 0to75units.com. Get a free copy, and also the free owner financing course. And feel free to check out the kwakbrothers.com for that. So it literally is just the kwakbrothers.com. Check out for the latest information on what we got going on. And also, if you're interested in being a student, whether it's the Real Estate Accelerator or it's the one-on-one coaching, we do offer that. Feel free to check out 0 to 75 units /webinar. I think it's 0to75units.com/webinar. Let me check that, double check that for you just in case. So 0 to 75units.com/webinar. Okay, so feel free to, so for additional resources, for additional resources, feel free to check out no, not that. Sorry, give me 1 second, guys. I accidentally put in a comma instead of a period. Okay, awesome. So so feel free to watch 0 to 75units.com/webinar if you do want to sign up for the for our education webinar. Okay, cool. And next week, same time, 11 a.m. Central Time, we will have another real estate investing Q&A. So if you guys are, feel free to go ahead and watch our YouTube videos. We're actually releasing, I'm really excited for this, we're releasing a 30-minute video on how to negotiate for owner financing. So I'm really excited about putting that out because it's actually one of the best videos I ever made, honestly, in my life. The amount of content and the amount of depth that we do go into, I mean, I don't know if I've ever made a video that I am more proud of than this 30-minute video on how to negotiate for owner financing. So feel free to go ahead and check our other videos out on real estate investing. Get your questions, bring them back to me next Monday at 11 a.m. Central Time. If not, I love you guys, always praying for you. So blessed by the audience that we have here at the Kwak Brothers family. I'll see you guys next Monday.